Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to episode 3 of That Time I Was Reincarnated as a Slime. So, like I said last week, I want to make a real determinant on whether or not I want to continue this sometime in the near future. Because I'm at this point now where I am feeling really just kind of meh on it. And I don't want to, feel like I'm, again, not really giving the best reactions, as I always say. Now, I've talked about before, and I think I talked about it last time as well, how I don't like, or how I haven't been dropping stuff, especially stuff related to, what's it called? Donation rewards. How I don't want to drop stuff unless my interest goes below 10%. I also talked about how, what exactly that meant and everything about, what it means for my interest to reach below 10%, how it's not exactly a direct scale or anything, and it's just kind of like, oh, do I feel like I want to continue? Do I feel like I want to react to this? Stuff like that. It's actually more of a thing, you know? It's not just like, oh, it's like, it has to be, super bad. No. And so far, this one is, kind of on the edge for me. It's not bad, it's just my interest in actually reacting to it. So far, it hasn't really gotten me that invested. And when I say I want to figure that out soon, it's not like, oh, I just want to make a decision one way or the other. I want to actually figure out whether or not I truly do want to continue reacting to this. But so far, with our first 2 episodes, it's been just kind of resting there. Not really giving me a definitive answer. Because the first 2 episodes weren't bad, but they also weren't, great or anything. They weren't super generic, but they weren't anything exciting and fresh. They were just kind of, again, comfortable in the middle. So I'm really hoping that this series really starts to, for one way or the other, get going on its stride. I want it to really, feel like it's doing something. Even if that means it's not as good. I just want it to, not be, comfortable here in the middle for, again, lack of a better way of putting it. And I want to love it. Don't get me wrong. I want to love every series I react to, but I'd rather end up hating it than having it stuck here in the middle and just not getting much of any good reaction out of me. You know what I mean? But either way, I am really hoping that this really starts to get good, and it has good potential, it has a good idea, but it has yet to really, in my eyes, capitalize on it. So we'll see. Just as a note, I just had walked the dog and stuff, so if I'm a little sweaty or a little flustered or out of breath or anything, that's why. If I'm yawning more than usual, if my hair's a little itchy because of all the sweat, that kind of stuff. That's the reason. Just wanted to let you know on that. But yeah, it's I don't know what to expect. At the moment, our slime friend, whose name I forgot for now, they're kind of becoming this de facto leader of this goblin tribe to help them against these dire wolves. And that's kind of where we left off. We didn't get any actual resolution. We just got the fact that the slime is kind of joining forces with them and helping to protect them. Because the slime is all not naturally, all encompassing, has all I'm trying to get it out here. The slime has all-encompassing power and seems like just completely OP as hell. Which, as I've stated also in the last one, I'm not a fan of that trope. I'm not a fan of main characters just being automatically OP, because it definitely comes off as a Mary Sue type trope to have your main character be just overly overpowered for the sake of being overpowered. And that's what this is coming across as well. So that part does irritate me a little bit so far. Um, we'll have to see where they go with that. Again, though, I do not plan to just drop this unless I really feel like I just have next to no interest in continuing reacting to it. I'm not just going to drop it for the hell of it. I'm not just going to drop it because it's a little boring. It legitimately has to be like that low in terms of interest in continuing. Hopefully it never gets to that, though. Hopefully it never gets to that. Let's see what this episode has in store, though, and get things started. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then it fades back in, everything, after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So I'm conflicted. Like, with the past 2 episodes, I was just kind of meh on it. It was kind of, as I stated in my pre-thoughts, it was kind of like stuck in the middle ground. But now I'm actually genuinely conflicted on this series. Because this episode in general was actually really funny, and there was a lot of like really entertaining stuff in it. I like the concept of the goblins and the dire wolves evolving after being given names and stuff. I like the idea of them actually working together and kind of forming one big clan in a way. And I like just some of the like fun little things that occurred in general. There was also some funny like little jokes and all, like the fact that they focused on the one goblin chick who had the big bouncy titties and stuff. And it's like, usually that kind of stuff isn't my kind of thing, but I for some reason just the concept of that was funny to me. Maybe it's because she's a goblin. I don't know. But despite all of that, I still hate that Rimuru is so overpowered. Yes, we saw that that Rimuru like went a little too far and used up all of their power, and had to rest for 3 days because of naming all of these goblins and Ranga. But at the same time, even though it showed that Rimuru is susceptible to making simple mistakes like that, it doesn't really matter. There's no tension in this series because you know that Rimuru is always going to come out on top. They're practically invulnerable. They're able to take out anything without issue. Like seriously, in the entire the entire attack by the direwolves, there was absolutely no sense of tension at all. There was no sense of tension, no sense of worry or anything. It was actually kind of, it was one of the weakest parts of this entire episode, because knowing exactly how it's going to end, like I knew that the pack leader, the alpha, was going to die. I knew that he was going to die, and I knew that it probably meant that the other wolves would swear their fealty to Rimuru. It was super obvious, because you know that Rimuru's not going to be able to be taken out. No matter what, Rimuru was going to win that. There was no sense of tension or any kind of worry about where it was going to go, and that's a problem. I feel like all main characters need to have that tension to them, especially in a series like this, in order to make them like exciting, in order to make them just interesting to watch. When you have no sense of tension and always know how it's going to end up, it just comes across as boring. Great example. The anime Death Note. In Death Note, the protagonist is Light Yagami, but despite being the protagonist, he's actually the villain of the series. The hero is the Kira Task Force, and most specifically, both L and Nier. And the thing with Death Note is you never know who's going to win each part, each little gamble, each little piece of it, basically. And even when you think one's going to win, the other might surprise you. There is a sense of tension at every step in the series because it knows how to handle its characters and make it so that while both Light and L are extremely, extremely intelligent, neither of them seem overly intelligent in comparison to the other. They always seem like they are going head to head, like it's a back and forth, a game of cat and mouse. With this series, it's like, Rimuru's always going to win. There's no sense of tension. I think I mentioned it last time, the only way they could, at this point, bring in any tension is to bring in a character who is basically just like Rimuru, who does have, like, all these invulnerabilities and powers and stuff. And while that's certainly still possible, it just feels like this series is trying to paint Rimuru as, like, this unbeatable force, almost from a comedic standpoint. But the problem is that's not funny either. It's not entertaining. So I'm very conflicted on this, because while this episode was good, and in fact I'd say much better than the first two, Rimuru being so overpowered is really, really taking me out of it. But I will say that I am not going to drop it yet. I still do want to make this decision soon. But I don't feel right dropping it yet because, again, this was a good episode, all things considered. The only thing that really bothered me was Rimuru's OP powers and stuff. So that's pretty much how it's going to go from here on. I'm going to watch another episode, and I'll determine at that point, basically kind of like how you would think it would go. I keep watching, and if at any point it gets to be just too much or not enough, I guess, then I'll drop it at that point. Hopefully it does continue to interest me enough. We are going to dwarves now, and dwarves have always been really fascinating fantasy creatures. I guess you could call them creatures. So I'm really interested to see what they do with them. I'm hoping that they're not quite like what Rimuru's imagining. But yeah, I'm interested to see how they handle these dwarves. Excuse me. But yeah, in the meantime, tell me what you thought of this episode in the comments below. And thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.
And though you've come through many obstacles,